Hi guys, this is Connie, back for some more Connie Reads Journey with Grief. They are short, so I'll probably do 2 chapters at a time. We'll see how this works. Chapter 2, My Experience. Friday, 4:27 p.m. The call came. My son Ricky, barely understandable. Come home. Nathan is dead. Okay. Hanging up, I crumbled, heartache and despair overwhelmed, yet disbelief held out false hope. Driving toward home, streaming tears clouding my vision, sobs racking my body. I found my wife weeping uncontrollably, my son sobbing. Oh God, it's true. Nathan is dead. My son is gone. I will never see him, touch him, hear him, be with him again. Devastated, we held each other, instinctively knowing this was but the beginning of our long journey with grief. This is how my journey with grief began, and in some ways continues today. I still miss Nathan. I still wonder about the man he would have become, the uncle, father, husband. He died on October 31st, 2003. He was 18 and had adventured off to college 6 weeks before. We had seen him the Monday prior to his death when he returned to survey the damage done by devastating fires in our area. Covered in soot, he stopped by the house with a couple of his friends to hose off. They had sneaked into the cordoned-off area to check on homes of others in their group. My wife called out as he and his friends were leaving, "I love you," her final words to him. I do not remember much from the evening we received the news. The call from my younger son, the drive home, the gathering of his siblings, Stephanie, Mickey, and Ricky. 4 friends dropping by and spending the evening with us. Numerous phone calls. The desire to escape, wake up, go back in time was pervasive, along with the palpable pain that settled on each of us for a very long time. I do not remember much of that night, other than the neighbors continually ringing the doorbell and children screaming, "Trick or treat!" Nathan was due to come home that night. Halloween was his favorite holiday. Although he wasn't a fan of candy, he loved collecting it and continued trick-or-treating through his senior year in high school. His record candy haul was over 30 pounds. This Halloween night, he did not make it home from college, as his life ended when a semi-truck smashed into him early that morning. 2 days later on a Sunday, we traveled in two cars to collect Nathan's belongings from his college dorm. It had been 6 weeks since we had made the initial trip, one marked by his high excitement. He had desired to go away to college his whole life, and now both his life and the adventure were over. It was surreal to pack up all that we dropped off only a few weeks earlier, all but Nathan. We met some of the friends he made, many of whom we would see again at his memorial service. We loaded the car and drove to my parents' house to tell them the news in person. It was an excruciatingly painful day. The memorial service was held 8 days later. That entire week is a blur. I remember family arriving, meals being brought in, Donna's sister Diana as gatekeeper against an overwhelming crush of people. I remember Cynthia helping with the video from our assembled photos, choosing the music, someone securing the church, arranging for food, getting the word out. I remember uncontrollable weeping, unbelievable pain, waking up each night at the time he died, Nathan-centered dreams. The inability to look at pictures without bursting into tears. I remember being surrounded by family and friends that week before the memorial service. Then, like funeral flowers, they all faded away, moving on with their lives and tending to their own families. Our experience of grief, however, was intensifying. Now that the preparations and hubbub were over, the distractions behind us, we, family of 5, husband and wife, were left to begin in earnest our journey with grief. Poem untitled. All-encompassing sadness is my constant companion. Tears, grief, sorrow, journey with me. Questions, images, loss invade my thoughts day and night. My family will never be the same. My life will never be the same. I will never be the same. Death, where is your sting? A question I never ask. And that's the end of chapter 2. Chapter 3, The Journey. Poem titled Walk, Don't Run. Lingering in the heartache of sorrow, embracing the devastation of grief, savoring the ache of despair, birthing the person of Jesus. You have lived a life-changing trauma and are holistically injured. Unfortunately, on the outside, you appear to be almost the same, like someone with a back or neck injury, or one who suffers from chronic fatigue. Yet the truth is, you are permanently, deeply damaged, and you need to live into that truth. Give yourself grace and patience. The extent of your injury is a combination of many factors: your personality, disposition, prior mental state, image of God, the status of your relationship with the person who died, your last exchanges with that person, the circumstances of the death. The list is endless, and each factor has multiple levels, all an apt reminder of the singularity of grief. Whatever the level of your pain, your life has been forever altered. There is no returning to reality as it was. The only decision ahead is to remain stuck in your pain or to move on. This choice will be eased into over the coming months, but for now, seek to own and even embrace the tectonic shift that has rocked your heart and life. Grief is a normal, natural, and necessary response to the death of a loved one. Your grief journey is to be entered into rather than aborted or suppressed. It's not something you rush through, as it will have a flow and a time frame of its own. One unique to you. If you attempt to abort, suppress, or rush through the grief process, it will only fester within and seep through at a later time in unknown, unhealthy, and often hurtful ways. For a time, one must abide in grief. In many ways, grief is a declaration of the love we feel for the person who is gone. It's often immediate and unstoppable, erupting from within with amazing force and power. Such was my experience at the death of my son. But sometimes it isn't as explosive. It can be more of a muted sadness, as I experienced with the death of my dad. That very real sensation of grief couldn't be trivialized, but it didn't approach the anguish I felt with the loss of Nathan. Grief follows death as winter follows autumn, and is as uniquely endured. Poem titled The Power of Death. Death set Nathan apart, transformed him, took him. Once he was one of 4, unique, but one of a greater number. Now he stands alone, receives special consideration, invades my thoughts. Not because of love, because of death. He is forever distinct because he is dead. Death set Nathan apart. Death isolated him from his brothers, from his sister, from his mother, from me. Death defines us now. Whew. That is some heavy, heavy stuff. That is the end of chapter 3. So continue to be careful with that and enjoy, please and thank you. And I'm assuming you're watching this on YouTube. I would almost recommend going to watch some cat videos because the internet's popular for that. And continue to just, I know I've already said it, be careful with that and enjoy, please and thank you. And I will see you for the next update tomorrow.